hundreds of other people. Tonight, you're joining hundreds of other people as part of a week of action to urge Congress to support a Yemen War Powers Resolution, HJ Res 87. And this week of action is supported by many peace organizations, including, and I think we have a slide for this, Demand Progress, Action Corps, Code Pink, the Friends Committee on National Legislation, Move On, Common Defense, Peace Action, Just Foreign Policy, the Yemen Relief and Reconstruction Foundation, Veterans for Peace, Madre, Empower, Change, and Win Without War. So we have a really great coalition that's kind of bringing us more power for this. And so over the next 30 minutes, we're going to review some tools and take action together. And then we hope that many of you will take the next step by continuing your advocacy in the weeks to come. We'll also have all these resources recorded and available too if you want to share with others. Again, just get settled in. If you haven't introduced yourself yet, you can introduce yourself in the chat and mention where you're calling in from and you're a member of Congress. So I'm going to pass it over to Emily.
Great, thanks, Julia. So many of you know why we're here. We're excited that we have this historic opportunity to end U.S. support for the war in Yemen, which has been going on for over 7 years at this point, with logistical support, spare parts, and maintenance provided by the United States, which makes us complicit in this brutal war. So as Julia just mentioned, a bill was introduced earlier this month. We've been waiting for it for a long time, so very excited. It's finally here. We have a bill number. It's HJ Res 87 in the House, which is to end U.S. support for the war in Yemen. As of today, we have 85 co-sponsors, or over 85. I think last time I checked, it was 86. But we need to get as many supporters as possible. In New York, we already have 11 co-sponsors, which is amazing. Some of the reps that you've mentioned are on this bill. We have Representatives Bowman, Esquivel, Jones, Nadler, Tonko, Carolyn Maloney, Ocasio-Cortez, Higgins, Velasquez, Jeffries, and Clark, all co-sponsoring this bill, which is phenomenal. And a lot of that is because many of you on this call have already been taking action on this issue for years. And we just need to, continue to do that and continue to put pressure on our New York reps. So for the reps that I just mentioned, the 11 that I just mentioned, and that are also on the screen right now, their job's not done. We can still ask them to contact House leadership, including Representatives Adam Smith, Representative Deutsch, and their fellow New York rep, Gregory Meeks, to co-sponsor and support this resolution as well. And we can ask our members to make public statements of support and talk to their other colleagues across the state. So if your member is not one of the 11 that we've just mentioned, the ask is also really straightforward. We want them to join and co-sponsor and support this bill. These members really need to hear from as many constituents as possible, urging them to co-sponsor this bill and to show their support. We have some further resources that we'll share in the chat to give more background on the War Powers Resolution and on the situation in Yemen. But I think it's also really important to know that you don't necessarily need to be an expert on the war in Yemen and to have followed closely over the past 7 years to take action right now, today. Anyone can tell their member of Congress why US support for this war is wrong and why we need their support. So in the next about 20 minutes, we're going to be taking collective action by right here on this call tonight, sending emails, making phone calls, and sharing messages on social media to pressure our New York Congress people to take action on this. And if you happen to be joining by phone or are unable to see the screen clearly, we'll also be sending a follow-up email afterwards with the resources that we're sharing in the chat tonight and this slide deck so that you can follow up with it later as well. So I'll now pass it back to Julia.
Great, so we're gonna dive into our first action, which is gonna be emailing our reps. And we shared the list of the current co-sponsors, so it's key to know whether your rep has co-sponsored or has not. So we have both options here, depending on who your rep is. Again, if your rep is Bowman, Espaillat, Jones, Nadler, Tonko, Maloney, Ocasio-Cortez, Higgins, Velasquez, Jeffries, or Clark, you would thank them. And so that is the first option here on the left for reps who have co-sponsored. And so are you guys ready to take action? So we're going to take 3 actions, and this is the first one. And we hope each of you will take one more action after we hang up tonight, so we can continue to build this momentum during our week of action. So first, we're going to start by sending an email, and we'll do this by clicking on the link, which has an email draft already prepared, and then personalizing the email by adding your own message. So again, there are 2 links that you can see here, and one for members who have not co-sponsored, and one thanking those who have co-sponsored and asking them to talk to other house leaders. And so we're dropping those links in the chat. And when you've pulled up the letter that you're going to use on your screen, just give us a thumbs up so we can know if we're ready to proceed.
I'm just going to jump in to say, I don't think the bit.lys are working, so I'm going to just paste the longer links. So give me a second.
Can I just say that the thank you is over the, I mean, the bit.lys are on the wrong side at present. Oh, they corrected it. Okay. The first time I had it, okay.
Okay, so yes, so if you look again in the chat, for those who have not co-sponsored, and so Emily shared that. And then for those who have co-sponsored, that will be your link right there. So yeah, just give us a thumbs up if you've got the right link, just to let us know that you're ready to proceed. Are you guys getting the right links?
I'm seeing lots of thumbs ups.
Okay, great. So we can take a pause and stop sharing the slides for a moment. And so we'll give you guys a second. And basically the key with sending these emails is to really kind of personalize them and share something unique about yourself and kind of show how you're connected to this issue. And that's really what gives your letter weight. So think about one specific reason you care about this issue. It could really be anything, whether it's connected to your values, your life experience, or your perspective. And so as you think about this, if you'd like to, feel free to share in the chat what that reason or that connection is for why this issue matters to you. So we're going to give you guys a couple of minutes to do this. And I'm just going to play a little background music as you guys write for a moment. And feel free to share in the chat once you're done. So maybe we'll give you guys one more minute before we move on.
Great. Thanks, everyone. I know some of you have been done for a little bit, so thanks for hanging in there. I hope you're enjoying the Yemeni music that Julia has been sharing. So thank you, everyone, for sharing. If there's specific reasons that you added to personalize your letter, feel free to share those in the chat if you'd like to. And then we're getting ready to take our second action. So in a minute, everyone's going to grab their phones. That's my sister's dog is my background on mine. And we're going to dial the 1-833 Stop War number, which some of you may be familiar with. It's a hotline that we as a coalition working on Yemen have used for some time now, but it will direct you directly to your rep's office. They might be closed right now, but they will be surprised in the morning to wake up to hopefully a bunch of emails from their constituents, either thanking them on this issue or asking them to sign on. So we've got two different call scripts. We can pull those up on the screen, but if your rep has not yet co-sponsored, you could say something along the lines of, hello, I'm a constituent from New York City, and I'm calling to urge Representative Meeks to commit to supporting the Yemen War Powers Resolution to end all unauthorized US support for the Saudi and UAE-led coalition's brutal war on Yemen. 7 years of war in Yemen has created one of the world's worst humanitarian crises, and I believe that the US should not be complicit in the death of more civilians. I'm calling on you to co-sponsor and support HJ Res 87. Thanks for your time. And if your member has already co-sponsored, you can say, hello, I'm a constituent from New York City, and I'm calling to thank Representative Tonko for supporting the Yemen War Powers Resolution, HJ Res 87. I'm calling on you to reach out to your colleagues to co-sponsor and urge House leadership to move swiftly in allowing a floor vote. Again, 7 years has created one of the world's worst humanitarian crises, and I believe that the US should not be complicit in the death of more civilians. Thanks for your time. So we have those call scripts up on the screen. We've got the number, the 1-833 Stop War number. We also have just the strict number version of that. 1-833-786-7927 right on the screen, and we can put it in the chat as well. And I think everyone's already muted, but let's stay that way while we're making calls to make sure we're not interrupting each other. But I see Sylvia's already got her phone, Alice already has her phone up, so it's really easy to use the line. This is our moment, so if everyone could grab their phone, let's make our calls. And I've noticed a couple things coming into the chat, so I'm going to try to catch up on that as quickly as I can. And yes, if your phone only makes calls and texts, this should be fine. You dial it like a regular phone number. It's just like a hotline instead of calling the congressional hotline directly that we can use so we can track how many calls we're putting into Yemen, and just make it a little bit easier for folks to remember. 1-833-STOP-WAR is pretty easy to remember and to share with other folks as well. So I see Alice is talking on the phone. If you haven't already pulled your phone up, this is the moment to do so. And I see Sami has just put that number in the chat in numeric form, which I know always helps me. So let's make these calls. And I realize someone has asked for the scripts in the chat, so I can put those in now, but it looks like many of you are already on the phone, so I hope I'm not interrupting your calls. And I see Charlotte has shared what she added to her letter, which is great. I see we've got some longtime lobbyers of their Congress people. Also very delighted to see Paul Tonko supporting this resolution after he's been lobbied for so long. That was really great to see. And yeah, happy to share this script. Maybe, I know we had a few people join late. So if you're just joining, we are collectively calling the 1-833-STOP-WAR number and using the call scripts to urge our representatives to support the War Powers Resolution, or thanking them for doing so, and asking them to urge their colleagues and House leadership to help with this as well. And yes, I know some of us, like Sylvia, have had recent lobby meetings with offices, so it's great to follow up with them, remind them that we've been talking about them with this issue for a long time. And this is the time for them to take action. All right, okay. Has everyone made their calls? Can I get some thumbs up, some nods? Feeling good? 2 out of 3 actions done. Really simple, small things, but collectively it really adds up. We've got 30 folks on this call from all across the state, and that's really going to make a difference. So I really appreciate everyone's time and for taking the time to be here. With Zeldin, it's hard to say. He hasn't said flat out no. There are some Republicans on the bill. It is a bipartisan piece of legislation. So you never know. We're also trying to push Representative Maliotakis on this issue as well. So I think it really depends, but I think the more they hear from us and the more pressure we put on them, the better. Cool. All right. With time moving along quickly, I'm going to pass it back to Julia for our third action.
Okay, great. Kind of continuing in the same theme, we're going to take our third action, and that's going to be taking a minute to post on social media. So yes, we have this handy slide. And so take a second to pull up Twitter if you have it. And if you're not on Twitter, no worries. You can also use Facebook. We're going to take a minute to write a message calling on our members to support the Yemen War Powers Resolution. So the idea is to tag them. Here you've got all of their handles so that it will come to their attention and it will be on their radar. And so we're also going to share some links with some sample tweets, and we're going to have those in the chat. And we have different ones, of course, depending on whether your rep has sponsored or needs to co-sponsor. Right, so here are some tweets asking for co-sponsorship. And then here is the link for thanking your rep if they have already co-sponsored. So again, just take a minute. We have all of these different options that you can use as templates. And once you feel like you have your post ready to go, you can give us a thumbs up. Or if you feel like even sharing it in the chat, that's great too. And, you know, if we can all actually press send together, that's even better. So let us know when you're ready and we can publish our posts. And again, Facebook is another option as well. It doesn't have to be on Twitter. Right, as someone in the chat says, sometimes the calls don't go through. Sometimes if you just try at different days and times, sometimes it does get through. So thanks for trying.
Great. And I also shared first a non-working link, but then a working link of a Peace Action New York State tweet just directed at Gregory Meeks, urging him to support the War Powers Resolution. If you are a constituent in his district, that would be great to know. But even if you're not, across the state, we're really trying to put pressure on him as he holds a lot of power as House Foreign Affairs Committee chair. And in recent meetings, he has not been super enthusiastic about the Yemen War Powers Resolution. So I think it's more important than ever that we put pressure on him as well as all of our reps across the way. And to post to Facebook, you can just make is it still called a status? I feel so out of touch. But yeah, you can just make a post and all of your representatives have their own social media accounts. You can still use the @ and tag them. Their handles might be slightly different than what are listed here. But if you just start typing like representative and their name, it should show up and you should be able to tag them in your post, putting pressure on them in the same way.
Great, thanks for that, Emily. So are folks feeling like they've got their posts almost ready? So I would say let's go ahead. For those of you guys that are ready, go ahead and hit send and we can publish those posts. Great. And tag the reps and start to give them a bunch of notifications that it's going to put this on their radar. So, okay, great. Thanks everyone. Congrats for taking 3 actions. And I'm going to pass it over to Emily.
Great. Thanks, Julia. So thanks again, everyone. I hope that you're feeling energized and will continue to advocate to end U.S. support on the war in Yemen. I know these are super small, quick actions. I know sometimes it's hard to get through on a phone call. Some folks don't have social media. There's still so many other ways we can plug in. And so for next steps, I hope that you will do one of two things tomorrow. I hope that you will potentially request a meeting with your member of Congress if they haven't yet co-sponsored. And that's not as hard as it seems. We can definitely help you out. We're going to share a form in a second. So if you're interested in, requesting a meeting or being part of a meeting with your representative, we will help you out with all of that. And the second thing is that you can also write a letter to the editor of your local paper. The more letters a paper receives, the more likely they are to publish on one of these issues. And also your members of Congress are paying attention to a lot of the local papers in the area. So especially if you're mentioning them by name, they're very likely to take notice of that, and that can have a really big impact on them and also help raise awareness to others in your neighborhood, in your community. So if you're interested in doing either of those actions, we'll put a link in the chat to a Google form to fill that out. And yeah, we'll do that. But even just the actions that you've taken tonight are really important. We will follow up with all this information in an email. If anyone you know wasn't able to come tonight, you can tell them it took less than 30 minutes to take 3 different very important actions, and you can urge them to do the same. And yeah, just how is everyone feeling? Good? I know Julia's gonna get some music to help lead us out. And I'll pass it back to Julia to close us out.
Great. So before we sign off, let's just take a moment and we can all unmute ourselves on the count of 3. And we're going to say Yemen can't wait. So 1, 2, 3.
Yemen can't wait.
Great, everyone. So thank you so much for joining us tonight, and have a great night.